This is How to Paint Birch Trees in Watercolor by Deb Watson. That's me. You want to start on paper that's evenly damp. Today I'm using Arch's 140-pound cold press paper. And I'm dropping in a light blue, that's cerulean plus a little bit of phthalo. In the middle is a dark green made with some phthalo blue plus yellow and a little bit of perylene green. That's a wonderful green color. It looks very natural. These colors will be going behind the trees. On the right I put in some ultramarine blue. That's also a dark blue. I want to show you what different backgrounds would look like. If you're doing small greeting cards, you probably just want to use one color. Here's a straight razor. I press hard and I pull it across. You can make big trees and small trees. A variety of trees is the best for your card. You don't want them evenly spaced apart or all the same width and diameter. You want some big trees and some little trees, some close together and some far apart. You can also use an old credit card cut in half. See how my colors all ran together? You have to press fairly firmly, and even then, if your paper's too wet, the color may fill back in. You can also use just the end of the razor blade on the wet paper to scratch out branches, or just to scrape the paper, which makes dark branches. At this point, I'm going to put a little bit of salt on, and I'm using an old toothbrush and some Pro White, that's an opaque white ink, to flip on a little bit of snow. While it's still wet, I'm continuing with the razor blade to do a few more branches and weeds. You can see the salt's beginning to work. Now I'm dipping my razor blade in some burnt sienna and pulling it across to put a little bit of color in the trees. Some trees are going to be light and some trees are going to be dark. But the burnt sienna makes a nice addition to any color you use in the background. If you want, you can use your brush to add some really dark spots here and there. I'm also bringing a few of the trees down into the snow area. Since my colors all ran together, I'm kind of thinking this is looking like a painting. So I'm working a little more wet on wet to put in some faraway trees and different colors, just because it's fun and I can't resist. I use a clean brush with water to draw into the wet wash to suggest some faraway trees that are lighter. And I bring the green over just a bit. I want the trees to look like they're seated in the snow. So I put on a hint of a blue shadow and soften the top edge. That looks like there's a little bit of snow and a place where the tree is sticking down into it. I use a little bit of blue. The bottom's pretty dry. And do some dry brush of some blue, and then I soften that also with a wet brush with water. I let some of the pure white show through, and by now my pro white has pretty much disappeared. But I go ahead and use some white on a razor blade to pull some more white across. Using the razor blade gives you more of a tree look. It's a hit or miss effect that just works really well. You can use as much white as you want to make, especially the trees that are closer to you, have more detail. You can also use the white to put in some white branches, because having dark and light branches has a nice visual impact. And if you want some really thick areas of white, you can put on thicker white paint with your brush. Here's a few white branches. A liner brush, also called a script brush, would work really well for this. Now I've got a little forest scene going. And one of the last things I do is to add some snow by flipping the white paint on my toothbrush right onto the dry paper. A trick for doing snow, if you have a white area, the white snow isn't going to show up. So I mix the white with a little bit of blue and put some grayish colored snow falling at the bottom. That's how to do birch trees. Happy holidays!